Yo, welcome back to Ivory's Soapbox. I'm Ivory, and I'm currently on my soapbox. Tonight, episode 3. Thank you for being here with us. Tonight, I've titled this episode Career Night because I'm going to be talking about my careers. So, my former career as a law enforcement officer and my current career as a realtor. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I don't know if you're out for a jog, you're at the gym, waiting on the kids to get picked up from school, at work, not working, listening. I appreciate you regardless. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. So let's kick it off with being in law enforcement. So I started out as a police officer at the Mount Holly Police Department. Shout out MHPD, my favorite police department in the history of police departments. And I went to rookie school, aka BLET, Basic Law Enforcement Training, at Gaston College, and did that. And once I went through, did the physical part, the testing part, and passed, I ended up getting hired by the Mount Holly Police Department before I graduated. So that was really cool because you know you're doing something right before you graduate, you get a job. A lot of people listening, y'all are familiar with that as well. And I think it's one of those things where law enforcement is a calling and you have to really be patient, love people, and also don't take any crap. And that definitely, law enforcement has taught me so many things about where I am today and where I am going because it probably happened in law enforcement and learned a lesson from it. So being with the Mount Holly Police Department, I ended up going to the Belmont Police Department as well. I was recruited to Belmont for my community work that I was doing in Mount Holly off duty. It actually was being noticed more than I thought it was being noticed because, of course, I'm doing stuff out in my community that I'm not looking for credit for, but it was being seen by other people. And so it ended up guiding me and taking me to Belmont. I didn't fill out an application for Belmont until after pretty much I got hired simply because I wasn't looking to leave because I did love Mount Holly Police Department. But then with me leaving also, that opened up another door for me to be able to run for city council. So I'm a current city councilman, which a lot of you know if you've listened to episodes 1 and 2, that I am currently on city council for Mount Holly, which I love as well. And so at my time with the Belmont Police Department, I was a community officer. I was downtown a lot with Officer Henderson and doing a lot of the community stuff, trying to bridge that gap between the community and the police department. Because you know, as well as I do, there's a lot, and it's always been a lot with the police department and the community. And so it's always great when you're able to just have that peace with people and people can see you for more than just a uniform and being a cop. Because as soon as you take that uniform off, you're just another person just like them. So that was a beautiful part about being able to go over to Belmont and work in that community officer role. When I was in Mount Holly, the position I held there, I was a patrolman for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And then a job opening within the department ended up opening up. And the first time I put in for it, which was investigator, detective, I did not get it. Of course, I had only been in my career a short time. And so it opened up again. And of course, I applied again, even put in my letter, a part of my application, I guess, that regardless if I don't get it even this time, I'm going to continue to try because this is something I've always wanted to do. And being an investigator, detective in Mount Holly was, I'd say, even though I love working with people and being the community officer, being a detective was the highlight of my career for me. I was able to help more than anything being back there in investigations and doing what I do there. You'd be able to take time on cases to figure stuff out, if somebody did something bad, figuring out how to lock them up for long enough. So that was really cool. And of course, being on patrol was always the most exciting part. especially when you're a young officer getting started. And I definitely had some great times because the way it worked in Mount Holly at the time, I'm not sure how it is now, could be the same, where you worked rotating shifts, but it was every 4 weeks. So you'd work day shift for 4 weeks, and then you'd switch and then work night shift for 4, and then so on and so forth. And so, of course, day shift, it definitely had its ups, a lot more downs, of course, because you got more people at work and not as much action. You got more people there to help when things are happening as well. But then when night shift comes, the freaks come out at night. That's what they say. You could take that in all sorts of ways, but that's exactly how it is. Night shift, anything can happen. Nothing is off limits. I used to tell people all the time, New York City, which is the largest police department in the world, and Mount Holly Police Department have the exact same crimes, except New York just has more of them. So Mount Holly, thankfully, the citizens of Mount Holly didn't realize and don't realize what all goes down in their town, just like any other town. There's crime everywhere, and the police department and police officers, thank you for your service because you shield the community from really knowing what's happening, because no one wants to have to know what all is going on. And so I think that also brings me to a point of me and my career. It ended after 7 years, but being able to, I was in it long enough for me. Of course, there's a lot of officers who retire from this career and even do shorter times than I did for my 7 years, but my 7 years was perfect for me. That's exactly how long I was supposed to be in it. And I had a great time, met some amazing people, still have amazing relationships with people, brothers and sisters that will always be close to me for the rest of my life. And it's truly a blessing to be able to have done that. And it's nothing like being in law enforcement and working night shift or even day shift and getting close to people you have to work with and do some crazy things to make sure the community and your police department, the officers there, are safe. I know there's a time where me and an officer had to go into a house. It was a beautiful, beautiful Sunday afternoon. We worked Friday. This is during the day. It was Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. Sunday at 5:00, we'd be going home. It's like Sunday at 1 p.m., no clouds in the sky, sun shining, and we get a call about some guy that ended up punching a female in the house, and so that he was off his meds, and we had to go basically see what was going on. So we get the call, we head out there. The lady and another lady had already left, thankfully, and so they said that the guy was in the house by himself. The door was unlocked, and we could go in. Of course, we get there, me and the officer, we talk game plan and everything about how we're going to go about it. Like I said, it's a beautiful Sunday. He ended up going lethal, which is having his firearm out. And then I ended up going less lethal, which I had my taser out. And so ended up knocking, announcing who we were multiple times. And then we hear the guy in the house screaming. So doors unlocked. We go in and he's screaming. We're giving commands. Sir, please come out slowly with your hands up, slowly with your hands up. And we probably said that 4 or 5 times. And then finally, he's screaming the whole time. And finally, he stopped screaming. We say it like 1 or 2 more times to make sure he hears us. And then like a pause where nothing is being said. And he just runs out of the room right at us. And I didn't know it at the time, but after watching the film, he comes out with his arms behind his back one arm behind his back, excuse me. And I ended up pulling the taser, hitting him right like center mass in the chest. He drops immediately. And so The officer who's with me, he holsters his firearm. I'm still holding the taser because the prongs are still stuck inside of him. And so we, boom, hop on top to try to handcuff him. I'm saying, like, I think the officer with me as well, we're both saying, get on the ground, get on the ground, get on the ground. And it's crazy looking back at that video because as soon as I tased him, he hit the ground and was on the ground, but we ended up saying get on the ground like 4 times. We were stuck. The adrenaline had not caught up with us yet or surpassed us, and we hadn't caught up with it. And we're just saying get on the ground. And then finally it clicks that he's already on the ground. We stop saying commands and we're still trying to handcuff him. And we were stuck because it happened all so fast. And people don't realize when you're in that moment and something like that happens, officers, I can't speak for all of them, but me in that moment and what a lot of educational studies say, they're stuck in like a OODA loop is what they call it. And you don't realize it because everything happens so fast. And it happens with a lot of shootings as well. Thankfully, I've never been in a shooting, but that was something where I had to tase someone and it happened so quickly. And going back, watching the film, the body cam footage after that, it was very eye-opening being able to break it down a little bit more because at the time, whenever we said come out with your hands up, he comes out speeding and on the video, we got to see him come out with an arm behind his back. And I know some of you may be familiar with something called suicide by cop. And of course, we didn't even get into investigating and asking that question, but with him being off meds and coming out with his arm behind his back after we've given multiple commands on things like that, it was one of those things that popped up that could have been to where he was so in a different mindset to where he was trying to get us to shoot him or something. But thankfully, it was daytime to where I could go in less lethal. Because if it was nighttime, I've already said multiple times I would have had my firearm out with the officer that was with me. And it was just a crazy situation, especially how fast it happened. And that could happen at any point, any shift. And it happened so much. And the thing about being tased, and I've been tased before, the news isn't going to pick that story up right there. They're not going to care anything about that because it was me, a black man, tasing a white man that day. And of course, tasing because the guy lived, it wasn't going to get picked up by the media. And especially at that time, that was around all the time where officers were being dragged through the mud because so many things were going down and the media was just doing what the media does when it comes to law enforcement and agendas when it comes to political games. But that could have played out way different because after watching the body cam footage, multiple people, of course, it wasn't any IA investigation or anything, but it was, of course, justified. But they also Superior stated it would have been justified if he would have been shot simply because of his hand placement when he came out after giving multiple commands. It's just in a split second, something like that could happen. And I thank God that it didn't have to come to that. And it was daytime and I was working with the officer that I was working with. And we knew what we were doing. We were smart. We had a game plan, but sometimes you don't have time to game plan. And like I said, I thank God that it turned out the way it did. And I still pass that house like almost every day, if not every day. And literally that's the only thing I think about whenever I see that house every single time. But also I'll go into another quick story. It was when I was on patrol as well. So it was night shift this time. So I gave you a day shift story and I'll give you a night shift story. So my night shift story, it was probably around anywhere between 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. No action at the time. I don't know what we were all doing, but ended up getting a call out. It was a neighbor calling about a black male dressed in all black, holding a gun, walking through the neighborhood. So, of course, when we get that call, everybody's on high alert. All the officers, I think we were working like 4 or 5 on shift at that time. We hightail it to wherever that neighborhood is. Of course, I remember where it is, but I don't want to just pinpoint it. But if you see me out somewhere, you can ask me. But anyways, so we're all heading out to that neighborhood because of the call. Of course, that's all we have to go on. So we have to get there, assess the situation, and use our experience and training. And we get there, like the neighborhood, how it was set up, half the officers went in one entryway and the other half came in the other way. And so when we did that, we were able to spot the black male dressed in all black. And then the other officers, we told them on the radio when they came in the back way that, hey, be alarmed, we're in front of such and such, and he's right there. So they pull up after we're already out, starting to yell commands and things like, yay, hey, can you turn around for us, slow down, can you stop for us, put your hands up? And so we say that a couple times, and then the guy turns around and looks at us and keeps walking. And we're just like, oh, crap. I mean, we don't know what to do. Like he literally heard us, so we thought, turned around, and then kept walking. So we're just like, all right, well, maybe, I don't know. So we kept yelling at him. And then finally, we have to start like running up on him. And then once we get up on him, like dude turns around and he's scared for his freaking life. Like he turns around, pulls his hood off, looks at us, and we look at him and like guns are out already because of this, because he has something in his hand as he's walking, already told to be a gun. That's all the information, of course, we have to go on. And we get up there, get him on the ground, find out he's carrying a cell phone and listening to music. He's carrying a cell phone and listening to music. I'll say it one more time. He's carrying a cell phone and listening to music, and he lived in the neighborhood. That call came out that black male, dressed in all black, carrying a gun, and that could have turned out so bad. And I think about that story often because me, of course, being a black man, and I also go on walks, listen to music in my neighborhood as well. Of course, like my experience and stuff like that is going to tell me not to do that at a certain time. However, I can if I want to. There's people that walk their dogs in my neighborhood at that time, so I can if I want to. But at the same time, me personally, I'm not going to. And not just because of that situation, but also because of that situation. And that could have turned out totally different. And so there's so many things that police officers deal with just on a daily basis that never get talked about. That also, I'm not saying that's a part of PTSD because it's not, but at the same time, it is something there that will have you thinking about situations for the rest of your life. I'll tell you that much, because so many things that I've done in that small 7-year career in comparison to a lot of officers, I think about all the time. And that is a good and bad thing because I'm on high alert a lot of the times, and for my family as well, to make sure they're safe as much as I can. And so it's a scary thing. And so my law enforcement career, like I stated earlier, that 7 years was exactly the amount of time I was supposed to be a law enforcement officer. And I'm blessed to have been a law enforcement officer because it set me up for my career now. And of course, might not correlate to a lot of people, but just the way I handle things, the way I go about my business, the way I am patient, the way I've earned trust from people to be able to help them with their needs, because it's not necessarily the career path for me or what I'm doing, it's the purpose. And so my purpose is being able to help people along the way. And I've definitely done both in my law enforcement career and my real estate career. And it's been a beautiful thing to being able to learn from that, get that life experience that a lot of people don't get. And also why I think the way I do and the way I go about things is because I've had that experience that a lot of people don't have, and being able to walk different lines that other people haven't. And I try to be able to tell people about that story, and not just that story, but just stories in general that help me out and have created a path for me going forward. So a crazy thing is, it's not necessarily how I got into real estate, but it helped. And it's crazy that I look at it as something that helped me. But whenever I was in Belmont at the police department, I was on patrol. I was like in between the convenience store and the Taco Bell in Belmont at the light. Ended up just waiting there, hanging out, chilling, waiting on the light to turn, listening to music. Boom! I get rear-ended out of nowhere. I didn't know what happened. Of course, those that have been rear-ended before, and it just comes out of nowhere. Yeah. But anyways, so ended up taking like a day or two off, getting a check from like the insurance company for like, I think it was like $700 or something around there. But that $700 went directly towards real estate school. So I went to Superior School of Real Estate in Ballantyne, and that paid for real estate school books and tuition, if you will. And it was just perfect timing. I was thinking about it, talking about it, but at the same time, me and my wife, we couldn't afford like paying that much money. That was a whole lot of money to us back then. It's a whole lot of money now, don't get me wrong. But as far as a lump sum of $700 and being able to get it right there and then go to school for real estate, it worked out like it was supposed to. Like, so crazy. And because it's so crazy because that wreck, when I got rear-ended, paid for real estate school. But you know what? It's funny that I ended up getting jury duty when I worked at the hospital in the emergency room. I got jury duty and was on a case for 5 weeks. Ended up getting, I think it was like an $800, $900 check that pretty much covered basic law enforcement training. And it's just crazy how it works out. Like, it really is. So it's meant to be. And I truly believe that. And I'm truly blessed and thankful for where I am right now in my life, and thankful for what I have done, and that I've been a stand-up person through it all. Been a guy that people can look to, they can trust, they can reach out to, ask questions. There's so many times that people reach out to me, hey, I know you'll shoot it to me straight. And people know that. I'm not a BSer. I will be there if you need me to be, talk to you about stuff. If you have a question about real estate or a law enforcement question, I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. And a lot of people have done that over the years. I could easily say that probably 300 to 400 people, and that's no lie, outside of people that I don't know that I'm just helping, reached out to me just on Facebook, a phone call or a text message, asking, reaching out to me because they know they can trust me. And it's really cool to be able to look back at that and know that. Of course, some of it got on my nerves, naturally, because it was so many people all the time and I could never turn it off, especially the cop questions. Those came, and they still come. I haven't been in law enforcement for a while, but people still ask me questions about it, about somebody, baby mama, daddy done got into trouble. And hey, if I could help answer a question, I always tell them, hey, I'm not in it. I'm not an attorney. Go seek one, but I will try to help you to the best of my ability, because that's just who I am. And it's so appreciated that people still do that because they know they can trust me. And I was one of those cops that like, oh, I don't like cops, but I like you. I'm just like, don't do that, because there's so many other officers that are just like me that people end up saying the same thing about that don't know. And they could say the same thing about me. They don't like me because I'm a cop, but they like the person that they know who is. And so it's just a blessing that people actually do that and reach out to me about that, and also still reach out to me, of course, about my profession now, being in real estate. And real estate's really hard. So I ended up getting, talk about hard, ended up getting a email at 8:03. I check my email all the time, on and off, and I end up looking at it like 8:15, and it was a termination letter from a realtor stating, "Hey, my clients couldn't figure this out. They hate it, but they have to terminate." And it just sucks. It's never a good thing whenever you get a termination letter. But the beautiful part about termination letters in North Carolina is due diligence money. When in doubt, always try to get your client, if they're selling a home, due diligence money. It's very important because the buyer backing out, my seller will still get compensated for that lost time that they took the house off the market. So that's super important for those out there that need to say that due diligence, they don't want to do it or whatever, but it's definitely necessary for a lot of situations. But that money you're putting down in due diligence money, it is a deposit for you, a credit for you at closing if you close on the property. If you back away, you lose it. And that's a little educational piece and plug for real estate. But real estate stressful, and it's nothing against my law enforcement career or all the people that I know and love in it, but real estate is more stressful than being a police officer, and that's so crazy to say. And I've never said it, I don't think, publicly. I've said it to people, of course, but for me, it was definitely more stressful it's more stressful being in real estate. And a big reason is because you're mixing money and emotion together, and you should never do that. That's never a good idea, because obviously emotions, that's never gonna be the correct decision for you most times. But when you got money involved, and it's a whole lot of money, the number one investment in your life, it's stressful. It's super stressful. And so you have to lean on people. You have to have outlets and people to talk to and vent to, and people who understand it, because real estate, it'll definitely cause some gray hairs. I think I got like 4, but I think these gray hairs just come from each one in my family. I got 3 kids and 1 wife, so you do the math. Some food for thought. Like I stated before, I have so many people that reach out to me and ask me questions and stuff like that because they know that I'm a straight shooter. But also I have people that reach out to me looking to get into real estate, and that's perfectly fine. I don't mind those as well. But I'd rather have you reach out to me to sell your home or help you buy one. However, I will help answer your questions about how do you get into real estate. But it's tough. It really is. And so whenever I went through real estate school, Jen was pretty much on her own with Penelope, because I told myself that failure was not an option, and I didn't have time to waste nor money, because you could fail the state exam as many times as you want to, as long as you paid the $100. You can only fail the class test twice. But however, I passed the class test first try and the state exam first try. Shout out me. Super proud of that. And there's not a bad thing if you failed, of course, because so many people do. But it was just one of those things with me that I studied so hard, and I appreciate my wife. Shout out my wife for being able to just hold it down for me while I went through real estate school. And I gave it 100%. Like, I studied all the time, went to class. I was listening to YouTube videos, podcasts, whatever it was on real estate to make sure I passed. And thank the good Lord above, I did. And I'm here now, and I'm doing pretty well in real estate. And it's definitely been something that it was a goal of mine for a while, but I never knew how to get into real estate. And so whenever I did it was back in 2019. And 2019, you still had to go in person. There was no such thing as online courses for real estate in North Carolina. I don't know if any across the country or not, but in North Carolina, you had to be in person. So a lot of people didn't get their license or try to because their schedules wouldn't align with having to go in person. So I had to go in person. I went Saturday, Sunday for like 2 months, 9 to 5, and I studied immediately after that. And my wife held it down every weekend for that time frame, and I studied like crazy. And so they didn't have online classes until after COVID happened. And then COVID, of course, they're still going to get their money. So they started offering online classes. And then that's where you see a huge influx of real estate agents. But there's like a statistic, I don't know, what did it say? Only 70 or 75% of agents didn't sell a house in 2024. Like only 90 or 88% or something fail or stop doing real estate after the first year or before the first year is up or something, because it's really hard. It's stressful, and you won't get paid unless you sell a house. And people think that they see these TV shows and they see people posting houses that, oh, I can do that too. No, you have to earn people's trust. This is their biggest investment. You have to earn their trust, and they're not just going to automatically use you because you think they have to. No one owes you or me anything, and they don't have to. And you just have to grind it out. Like, you have to build someone's trust. You can't not talk to people for 20 years and then get into real estate and then expect somebody to say, oh, you're in real estate, I'll let you sell my house. Nah, it's a lot harder than that. And I'm thankful that I shaped myself and was set up well with how I did things, because I network, and I was in law enforcement. Not just saying people in law enforcement should be trusted, of course, but at the same time, I did a lot of good things that made people trust me when it came to real estate, but also, of course, being a law enforcement officer. And so it was just a blessing the way it worked out. And also I had a good reputation growing up, didn't burn too many bridges, and it's just appreciative, and I'm thankful, and it worked out the way it did. And I'm truly thankful how it did, and that people still trust me, and I haven't done anything to take that away from them, because my name is all I have. And so when people try to talk bad about my name, if it's a lie or something, most times I'll let it go. But at the same time, I will go to bat for my name, because I won't mess that up for anything. No amount of money, nothing in the world. It's all I got. And so I appreciate you guys listening today. This is the longest episode so far, and rambled on a little bit, but I think I got some good stuff across. But I'm Ivory. This is Ivory Soapbox. See you next time.